Morning, everybody. So, fairly small session today. So we can be a little bit chilled. So if anybody has questions partway through, please feel free to ask them. We can make this a little bit more interactive than it normally is. Although I do believe there is a microphone at the back that is hooked in. So if people do have questions partway through, please use the microphone so that everybody in the room can hear, and also so it's included in the recording. This morning, we're going to talk about how to build a Quokka bot, or mainly just about Quokkas. I just have to put the bot in there, so this is tech related. Hi, my name is Amy. I am a freelance front-end developer, which means I spend most of my time at the beach and the rest of the time working at home in my pajamas. I'm heavily involved in the Perth tech community, help run a few of the meetups, although we've had a couple of years off. I'm also the Vice Chair and Director of Conference Content for DDD Perth, which probably a little bit biased, but I believe is the best DDD in Australia. You can come and argue with me about that afterwards. I am also a Twilio champion and a Microsoft MVP. I have a beautiful border collie at home as well, who is not thrilled about me traveling again, although he does like my partner better than me, and he is allowed to sleep on the bed when I'm away, so I'm actually pretty sure he's not missing me. So he did kind of like it when I was home more. But most importantly, I'm just really excited to be here with everybody this week because I'm from Perth, which means I've been allowed nowhere for the last few years. Actually, no, that's a lie. I could go anywhere I wanted, I just wouldn't be allowed to come home again. So I am very excited that I can be here in person with everybody this week and still go home at the end of the week. So that's really exciting to get to be here. As well as I'm sure most of the people here are just excited that they're allowed to leave the house. So, yeah. This morning though, we're here to talk about Quokkas and Quokka bots. Now, because I don't know any better, most of this presentation is a live demo, so we're going to keep our fingers crossed that I sacrificed enough Quokkas to the demo gods that this will work today. So, who here has used any of Twilio's communications APIs before? Who here has used an Azure function before? Got a couple of people. So we're going to go through what happens behind the scenes of QuokkaBot. We are setting up a WhatsApp bot, mainly because I wanted people to be able to send and receive pictures. And Australian telcos don't really play nice with allowing MMSs. So the bot has to be on WhatsApp because it's the only way I can send and receive messages send and receive pictures using an Australian number. Also, apologies, I'm realizing the stage creaks and I do like to move, so apologies if that's distracting. So what happens is I have a number which is registered with Twilio. It has a WhatsApp account, which I have here ready to go. And when I send it a message, Twilio will then trigger a webhook, which goes to my Azure function. So I can say hi, and it will give me an error because I've actually done nothing at this point. So this is the start off of my Azure function, which doesn't really do anything and actually currently isn't valid XML, so isn't even probably going to send me a response back. No, it's just not going to work. So a little bit of background behind this bot. A few years ago, probably 2018, 2019, a while ago now, I got to go to Twilio Superclass in Sydney and was asked to give a 5 to 10 minute demo. I wanted to do something fun, and also I was coming from Perth, so I wanted to do something including Perth. So I went, great, I'm going to make a bot that sends pictures of quokkas. So people can ask for a picture of a quokka and it will send them a picture of a quokka. So that's what we're going to go through and build first today. So the first thing that I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to grab the Twilio package, which I can find the code. So I'm going to require the Twilio package, which I've already included because we don't want to sit here and install node packages because that will take forever. I also need to require the query string package because we need to check what is going on with the response. Once I've done that, I'm going to grab the response that comes through. So I have a messaging response using the Twilio package. Now there are some excellent docs which explain a little bit more about how these functions work, or if you have any more questions about what else you can do, you're welcome to come up to me afterwards or go to the Twilio booth and ask Phil a question. Now, Twilio has their own special language called TWIML, and this is what it uses for their messages. This is how we send a response back to the users, and it's pretty much in XML. I'm also going to I'm going to create a message. From TWIML. And what that means is I can go through and send a message back to the user. And I can say, welcome to Quokka. Once I've done that, I then want to go through and actually send my message back to the user. So I can go message to string and send it back. Now, when I say hi, that red does not bode well. What have I missed? Message response is not defined. Okay, let's try again. Is it really a live demo if it works the first time? There we go. Here we go. I have sent a message. I said hi to Quokka, and it has come back with welcome to Quokka. So that's really great. But we also need to know if people have asked to see a quokka. So I also need to get the message that they have sent through. So to do that, we're going to use the query string package, which we've already included. And I'm going to grab the body of the request. And this is probably going to yell at me because I'm pretty sure I need to do it another way. But I decided the day before the conference was not the time to rewrite the app. I'm then going to grab the body. And for now, I'm just going to log that out to the console and have a look at what we get there. So I'm passing the body of the request, and I'm grabbing the body of the request, which I know should give me my message. So if I say, hi, Quokka, and increase my font size. Also, is that font size big enough for everybody at the back? Cool. I can see here, it has put out the Hi Quokka text. So I can get the body of my message that has come from the users and pop that out to my console. Now, to check whether or not people have asked to see a quokka, I'm using some very, very advanced AI where I'm going to go if regex quokka, case insensitive, and match the text. So if the message they send through includes the word quokka in any way, shape or form, I want to set the message.body. That's not going to work. I can't even do. I'll send you a quokka. If not, it'll just say welcome to QuokkaBot because it's not very nice to not respond if someone says message. So, can I have a quokka? And I should get a response back that says I'll send you a quokka. It's not liking this. I is not. There we go. Give it another go. Here, I'll ask please, can I have a quokka? Because we should be nice to the bots because they will take over. There we go. It says, I'll send you a quokka. Now, the one problem with this is I can say, don't send me a quokka, and it will send me a quokka. So, not perfect, but I don't want to go through the whole, did they intend to ask for a quokka? Does it seem negative or positive in their request? That's too difficult. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send them a quokka anyway. And somewhere here. Okay, so as well as sending the body of my message, I can also attach media to it. So I can set message.media and double check that's correct before message.media. And I can actually pass in the URL of an image and send that through. Now it does have to be a live image, so I have a URL here ready to go, https quokkas capers.dev quokkas, and then I'm gonna double check that I've got this right first. I'm just going to pick a random image here. Quokka 10. So I'm going to send through Quokka 10. So now I'm going to say, can I have a quokka? And here we go. It has sent me a quokka. So here I have a random quokka that it has sent through to me, which is pretty cool. So this is the quick demo that I did for Twilio Superclass, and that was really great. But then afterwards, a bunch of us standing around talking at the after party where all good ideas are formed. And some obnoxious developer is like, you should add machine learning and image recognition so that people can send in a photo and tell you if there's a quokka in the photo. And I went, well, my specialty is kind of HTML, CSS, sometimes a little bit of JavaScript, not really the machine learning type of person. But I discovered that there's actually a really great service called Custom Vision that Microsoft has. And it's fine because Microsoft doesn't pay me to say these things, I swear. There's a really great service called Custom Vision, which is super duper easy to use, doesn't require any code or even understanding most of the concepts behind how machine learning works. I was able to go through and use their image classification service to classify quokkas and not quokkas. So you have to start off with, they recommend at least 50 images from each different category first, and so I tried really hard to find at least 50 images of quokkas, because, you know, there are no photos of quokkas out there. So I started off with a bunch of images and gave it a bunch of images and said, these are images with the tag of quokka. And then gave it a bunch more images and said, these are images with the tag of not quokka. And then it went through and trained the bot, and it managed to pick out which ones were quokkas and which ones were not quokkas. Now, obviously, the more images you have, the more accurate it is. So it's been going through a process of doing things. When I first started it, it got confused about most of Australia's other animals because they look a little bit like quokkas. So wombats apparently were quokkas for a bit until some very lovely people on the internet discovered this, and so they spent half a day sending in pictures of wombats to train the bot with. Kangaroos were a bit weird. I can't remember, there's like a North American animal that looks really grumpy, and I'll find it out afterwards. And apparently it looked a little bit like a quokka. We also went through and tricked the bot a little bit because there are some things that technically aren't quokkas, but we wanted it to believe it are. Like, for example, Lego quokkas. Not technically quokkas, but I want the bot to understand that they are. Pictures of quokkas on clothing. More photos of quokkas. It doesn't actually care whether they're upside down as well, which means I don't need to mess around with things. Lots and lots of photos of quokkas. However, there are then some things where we super confused it, where we were like, this says no quokkas, so that's definitely not a quokka. So it's been a process of going through and training the bot and helping it to learn. It's pretty good now. For quite a while, it's been very, very confident that my dog is not a quokka because he was 98% of the not quokka training set. So we're now going to go through and hook up custom vision. So if someone sends in a picture of a quokka, we can tell it if it's a quokka. Now, I've got a lot of the code already set up, ready to go for this. So I'm actually just going to talk about that a little bit first, rather than going through and writing it. So most of this is just sort of following the docs. So we're requiring the packages. So we're using the Prediction API client for Cognitive Services Custom Vision because we're predicting whether or not the image has it. There's also a training one where people could actually send in images to train it. We're also grabbing our API keys, grabbing the super secret API keys, which I swear I'm not going to put up on screen at any one point because you only do that once before you learn. We're grabbing the credentials, the predictor, and then what we're doing is we're pulling it into a function here. Now, I'm going to ignore this binary function because that's going to come in a little bit later when we delve into the wonderful world of email. But the first thing we're going to have a look at here. So here we're using our predictor. There's a function called classify image URL. Fairly self-explanatory, give it an image URL and it will classify it. I then pass in the project ID, which is the machine learning that I've done, so my project for QuokkaBot, and the iteration, because every time I train it, there's a different version. So I can actually go through and test this against a previous iteration if I wanted, which would be less accurate than how it is now. Then also give it the URL. Now, this spits back a whole lot of data, but the key thing it does is it tells me the tag that it thinks that will apply to the image, quokka or not quokka, and the percentage of confidence it has in its results. Now, I take those results back and I pass it through a function that I have here, which strips out a lot of the information that we don't need and checks the tag name, negative and quokka, and then assigns the probability, because that's all I need. I need the two numbers of the probability that it's not a quokka and the probability that it's a quokka. I could probably get away with just grabbing one number and then work it out because it's going to add up to 100%. But for now, I'm going to grab both of the numbers just for ease of use. That then is going to send me back an object with two values, quokka and not quokka, and the percentage. So I'm now going to pull this function in. Well, actually, first of all, I'm going to grab the image that the user has sent through, and then I'm going to send that through the function. So I'm going to grab the image, and to do that, I'm going to get the body of the request. I'm going to check that the number of media items on the request is in fact at least one, and if it exists, I'm going to get media URL 0, which is going to be the first media item. So people can send in multiple images, because you can send multiple images with a WhatsApp, but I'm only going to grab the first one because doing all of them is too hard. I'm then going to get the results. Actually, first of all, I'm going to grab my test function that we just went through. So quokka, nope, custom vision, quokka test. So I'm going to get the results. Await custom vision and send it the image. I swear I know how to JavaScript. So I'm going to go through and get that. And for now, I'm just going to log out the results to my console so I can have a look. Well, I know what it's going to look like. I'm going to let everyone else see what it looks like. So I'm then going to send it a picture. And here's some quokka pictures I prepared earlier. Hope other people have quokka pictures because there is an opportunity to share them later. So now I'm going to send through a picture of a quokka, and it is going to then run it through my custom vision. I have a response back, so hopefully things have worked. And somewhere in here, I have a results object which has quokka 0.9999025, so it's fairly certain, and not quokka 0.000974, so it's fairly confident that's not a quokka, just to be confusing. So I'm going to go through and I've got my results. Now I want to then let the user know that this is or isn't a quokka. And so to do that, I have another function ready to go because no one wants to sit here and watch me type JavaScript the whole time. And what that does, so we're going to go through each of this. So here on line 20, we're grabbing the percentage, grabbing and formatting the percentage that it's a quokka. We're then grabbing and formatting the percentage that it's not a quokka. We're then checking the outcome. So is negative greater than positive? If so, the result is negative. If not, it's positive. So depending on what that outcome is, again, we're going to ignore this little bit for now because that'll come in later. We're then going to grab the response for, so if it is a quokka, it's a negative response. If it isn't, it's a positive response. And here we have what is probably a really, really messed out way of doing it, but we have an array of strings that we're going to join together. And so either, yep, that looks like a quokka, or sorry, that doesn't look like a quokka. However, if someone hasn't sent us a picture of a quokka, that's pretty sad because then they don't have a picture of a quokka. So we're going to send them a picture of a quokka to make up for it. So we also then have somewhere we're going to pop our results in. So it's going to grab, if it's a quokka, it's going to grab our positive response. If not, it's going to grab our negative response. It's then going to join the array together. So it's one big long string. That'll make sense later. Okay. It might kind of make sense later, but also I've done this a really weird way. So there's probably a lot of better ways to do it. So once we've got our message, we're then going to replace results with our actual results. So we have quokka, which is then our percentage, and not quokka, which is our percentage. Remember, if someone didn't have a quokka, we were going to send them a picture of a quokka. So if we look back here, we're using a function that I have ready to go, which is random image, and we're passing in an array of quokka images. So it's going to go through and just pick one of the random images that we have ready to go. We then have something a little bit complicated, which is some images have messages that go alongside them. So if the photo that we grab has a message, it's going to include that as part of the image and send that back. So we're going to pass our results through. So once we've got our results, we're going to get our reply. Const reply equals, I'm going to have to grab quokka results equals require quokka results. Okay, so now we can get the quokka results, and we're just going to send it through the results. Once we've done that, I'm going to get rid of these previous messages because we'll fix that up later. And so we're going to set message.body to be the message of the reply that we've gotten. We're then going to check if the reply, actually, let's just check this works first, and then we can go through and sort out the image. So, send through an image. Let it think. And it says, yes, that looks like a quokka. It's 100% certain that that is, in fact, a quokka. So now let's try sending it pictures that aren't quokkas. So here's my folder called Not Quokkas. This is not a quokka, but let's see, does it know that these are not quokkas? Sorry, that doesn't look like a quokka. It's 100% certain that there are no quokkas in that image. That's pretty sad though, so here's a quokka. But the problem is, it said it was going to send us a quokka, but it hasn't. So, as part of the reply, we had a photo that should come through. So we check if reply has a photo on it. We then set the message.media reply dot photo. So now if we send through something that isn't a quokka again, my dog features heavily in these presentations because he's an excellent example of not a quokka. And here we go. Sorry, that doesn't look like a quokka. That's pretty sad though. Here's a quokka. And it has in fact sent us a picture of a quokka. So that's pretty cool. However, at the moment all we're doing is checking images. So people can't ask for quokkas anymore. So what we're actually going to do is we need to check whether or not an image exists before we run it through custom vision. So I'm going to grab all of this and I can check if image. And so if we have an image, it will go through and run it through custom vision. If there isn't an image, we're then going to run it through another function, which is QuokkaBot, which is actually going to add through a few extra examples of functionality. So one issue with this is machine learning. The computers are not always right. So sometimes something might go wrong. So it might break or it might give false results. And while at events like this, it's great because someone can come up and be like, it thinks my dog is a quokka, and I can go through and retrain it. This is something that's kind of, when it's not broken, it's kind of available all the time. So I want people to be able to lodge a bug report. So again, I'm using my really advanced AI where I'm regex checking whether or not someone's message has included the word error, issue, or wrong. If it's done that, I want it to then send me a message and said that an error has been reported, and I can go through and have a look at what's going on. We've added some new functionality through Hacktoberfest, people adding a bunch of quokka facts. So quokkas are not animals that most people are familiar with. They want to know more about them other than the fact that they are adorable and very photogenic. So if someone's message includes the word fact, we want to send them a fact about a quokka, so they can learn a little bit more about Western Australia's most known animals and, you know, Australian animals that aren't trying to kill you. Lastly, we've got our very advanced AI check of if it includes the word quokka, we're assuming they're asking for a picture of a quokka, and we wanted to send her a picture of a quokka. If none of these tests are in fact true, we're going to send it a bit of information about QuokkaBot, let people know what they can and can't do with it and how they can use it. So again, we've got these responses up the top. So this is what will go back depending on how the checks work. So we've got, thanks for reporting your issue. Here's a picture of a quokka. They found an error. They need a picture of a quokka. So we have a function which will grab a random fact from an array of facts if they've asked for a fact. If they've asked for a quokka, we're going to give them a quokka. And by default, we're going to send them, welcome to QuokkaBot. I can do a bunch of things that have to do with quokkas, need a picture, lodge a bug report, ask for a fact, that kind of thing. So this will go through and do my check. So if there's no image, I'm going to, first of all, include my QuokkaBot function. Require. QuokkaBot. And so I'm going to grab my reply. Now, I do need to send through the text of the message because remember, it's checking that. This function is set up to provide either plain text or HTML versions, which we're going to use a bit later. So I'm going to let it know that I want a plain text version for now. From that reply, I then set the reply.body, and I set the reply.media. Because great thing about QuokkaBot, doesn't matter what people ask for, they're going to get given a picture of a quokka. So that's going to go through and do it. Can I have a quokka? This is a quokka. I can say hi, and it'll tell me a little bit about QuokkaBot. Can I have a fact? Now the problem with this is there are a lot of ways people can ask for facts. Usually they would be like, tell me something about quokkas, or can I know something about quokkas? They don't usually use the word fact. So here we go, we have fun quokka fact 997. Although they're known as the happiest animal on earth, their smiles are mainly due to the shape of their mouths. There's also a really fun one in there that if attacked or they feel threatened, quokka mothers will actually throw their babies from their pouch to distract the predators so they can get away. So it's okay. Quokkas aren't all great. They will actually sacrifice their children to save their own lives. So here we go. We have some fun facts about quokkas. So this is pretty cool. We can go through and I can still send in a picture and it will tell me if there is a quokka. Actually, I'm pretty sure, I feel like this is a GIF. This is probably going to break it, isn't it? Nope. Nope. Sorry, that doesn't look like there's a quokka. So this is pretty cool. We've been able to go through and write a bot that checks images or does very, very advanced AI testing of the message that has been sent through, and it will send images. And if you don't believe me and you think that I've just managed to perfectly get this to work, bugs and all, here is a QR code, which if you open on your phone that has WhatsApp installed, will allow you to send a WhatsApp message to Quokka. Yes, it is WhatsApp only, unfortunately, because Australian telcos won't play nice. There is also a WhatsApp number, which I'm happy to give out at the end. But WhatsApp's kind of weird that you have to have the number saved as a contact before you can send a message. So QR code is the best way to do it. So give that a go. Try sending a message through. See if you can break my thing so that the rest of the demo is going to be a struggle because everything is having issues. If you happen to have pictures of quokkas, please feel free to send them in to see if it does correctly recognize that they're quokkas. And I have a very special shiny quokka sticker for anybody who can find something that isn't a quokka, but that Quokka thinks is a quokka. So if you manage to trick Quokka, I have one remaining shiny quokka sticker up for grabs. Doesn't count if you just break it. I need an actual false result too. So while people are going through and breaking it, I'm going to continue the demo, which will probably be a mistake. So I did this and was like, well, this is pretty good, but not everyone uses WhatsApp, which is fair because Facebook. I don't use WhatsApp. Quokka is the only reason I have WhatsApp. So I thought about what another method that I could use to allow people to contact Quokka. And so I thought about what are some really popular contact methods that people, like lots of people are using. And so I thought, let's do email. Because who doesn't love dealing with email? So I added Quokka functionality with email, which is using the Twilio SendGrid API, which allows you to pass a whole lot of things with emails. So for this, I have an inbound pass on my email. So it will check for all emails that come through and again, trigger a webhook, which hits my serverless function, if somebody sends an email to the address. So let's go through. And we have a SendGrid function. So again, this is just another serverless function running on my Azure function. Now, I'm actually not going to go through all of this step by step because similar process adding the functionality on. And the reason why most of our functions are actually elsewhere and why a lot of them have HTML options is because now for emails, we want HTML. So I'm just going to copy and paste a lot of it because we've gone through and then we'll go through and explain the stuff that is a little bit different for email. So thankfully, since the last time I did this talk in person, there was an issue with the package, so made things a little bit complicated, which there's now an alternative that I can use. So the first thing we go through and do is we pass the data that comes through. So fun thing about email is it uses multi-part form data, which if anybody has dealt with, is a pain to deal with, especially because all of the node packages for it are incompatible with Azure Functions. So thankfully, there's a new package that I'm able to use. So that's going to go through and pass out the form data, which will spit out fields and files. Names semi-self-explanatory. Files are any attachments, which in our case is probably going to be an image, and fields, which is going to be most of the information about the email. So things like the to address, the from address, the data of the email, that kind of thing. We're going to go through and grab the image from the files. Again, similar to what we did on WhatsApp, we're just going to check whether or not there are any files. If there are, we're going to grab the first one, and it spits out an image buffer. So it spits out all of the data for the image rather than a URL. To get the fields in a bit easier to work format, the fields are an array of objects. Each of them have the name and the value, and so we're going to loop through each of them and put them out to a body object so I can more easily reference the different fields. We've got the API key for SendGrid, and we're then also going to go through and start to write our message. So for this, we need to set who it's going to, who it's coming from, and the subject of the message. Now, when we send a response back, actually I'm going to just remove these for now because we'll do that a bit later. When we send a response back, I actually kind of want to include the original message, which turns out is actually kind of difficult to do via email API. So I'm going to go through and craft a string that has the original details. So similar to how you would normally see in an email, it's got the formatted to address, from address. The date's actually really hard to find, so I'm not going to include the date, and the subject and the original message text. So we're then going to go through and check, was there an image attached to the email, and go through and run against the custom vision function. Now, this time we're letting it know that the image has actually come through in binary format rather than as a URL. So our custom vision function will then run it through a slightly different function. Instead of running classify image URL, it runs classify image buffer. So we can then pass in the data and it will check that. We're then going to go through and use our Quokka results, which will take the results and pass it in a nice, easy to read format. Again, yes, that's a Quokka. No, that's not a Quokka. Percentages. Again, we're going to use the HTML version so we get a nice, easy to read email back. I feel like I deleted something I was using. No. I swear it's not. I had a lolly earlier and I seem to still be choking on it. It's not that thing. So then if someone hasn't included an image, we're going to go through and send that to QuokkaBot. And again, it will pass back, do they want a fact? Are they lodging a bug report? That kind of thing. Now, for email, I'm going to take advantage of the functionality it already has. So if someone has lodged an error, which we'll get back with results.error, I'm going to BCC my email address on the reply. So that's how I get the bug report back. So lastly, we're actually going to send it back. So we're going to send it a little bit differently for the SendGrid function because email is fun. So much fun. We're then going to set the HTML of the message and then use the SendGrid function to send the message back. And now we're going to see if the email plays nice to me. Actually, first of all, we're just going to double check that I don't have emails on my screen. And now we're going to send a message. So I'm going to send a message to my email, which is hi@quokkas.dev. So it actually would work with anything at quokkas.dev. The inbound pass is for wildcard catches anything. I'm going to say, hi, can I have a Quokka? And I'm going to go through and send the email, which is then hopefully going to work. I'm seeing red. It's not looking good. Request is not defined. There we go. I'm going to actually grab the request that I'm using and try again. Hi@quokkas.dev. Can I have a Quokka? And wait for a response. I'm seeing green. This is a Quokka. And I have an email in response. So I can get a response back. I also want to make sure that, I'm just going to assume for now that the rest of it works. We can ask for Quokka facts. Again, I'm going to share the email at the end, so people are welcome to go through and load test how well this actually works when a bunch of people are doing it at once. But for now, I'm just going to double check that I can in fact send it a picture of a Quokka. Is this a Quokka? Attach an image. This is a pretty nice Quokka. I'm going to send this one in. We actually went to Rottnest for holiday last year, so they have hundreds of photos. It's ridiculous. So many photos to choose from now. And I have a response. And it says, yep, that looks like a Quokka. It is 100% certain that that is a Quokka, which is good because it's technically a training image. So I'd be really concerned if it didn't recognize that. So that's pretty cool. I've been able to go through and it will check whether or not it works via email. Now, I think we've got like 10 minutes left. So we've got a little bit of time to add one last piece of advanced functionality, which is probably not going to work for me now. So this is really cool, but it is also useful to have a look at what people have sent in and what results it's gotten, particularly for when we're at somewhere like a conference and people like to have demos going at booths. So we built a results page. So there is another really great Twilio package. I feel like I really should have been charging for how many times I mentioned a Twilio API. There's a really great Twilio package called Twilio Sync, which allows us to send data that it will then store, which we can then pull in on web pages. So what we can do is every time we send a Quokka image, we can then also tell Twilio Sync that we've sent in, this is the last image we sent in. When someone sends an image, we can then also tell Twilio Sync that this is an image someone has sent in and these are the results. So we can then see the last Quokka that was sent and previous Quokka classifications and show the result and the percentage of confidence that it had in the result. So again, we have a function here ready to go. We're using the Twilio Sync client, which at some point between the last time I did this talk in person and now is actually out of beta and has proper documentation and has gone from version 0.1 to 3.4. So much easier to implement at this time. So we have a sync client, and here I have two functions. One is to update the results, so it's the results from an image that was sent in. The other is to update the image, which is just the last image that was sent. For update results, we have a list because we have multiple results to show. That list has an image and results for each item in the list. For the update image, we have just the image that was sent through. So I'm then going to go through and so this is actually already there for SendGrid because I copied and pasted it. So here, if our reply includes a photo, we're actually running the update image function to send in the new URL of the photo that we sent. And if it had an image, it's also updating the results with the image and the results. So we're going to go through and add it to the WhatsApp function as well. So here we go. If the reply includes a photo, I actually should probably at my sync functions as well. If the reply includes a photo, and it looks like my computer is going, it says it's in low battery mode, so I'm gonna have to finish up soon. Oh man, this is gonna... Okay, so if the reply includes a photo, let's update the image. Let's update the results if they sent an image in, and we're going to do that. Okay, so now if I send in a picture, let's pick a different one. So this should then come back, and it should also update. There we go. It says, sorry, that does not look like a quokka. It's not liking this. This is probably just not going to work. There we go. The order's a bit funky, but there we go. There's my picture of a quokka that it didn't have. And the last, okay, more people are sending in results. It's working now. So this is the last quokka that was sent. Oh, yeah, so FYI, I can see, and it will appear on the screen if you send images in, so please play nice and follow code of conduct. So we can see here the images that people have sent in. We can see the quokkas that they have received. So we're now able to go through and actually have a look at the results that people have. Yeah, wallabies it gets a little bit confused by. Yeah. We have trained with quite a few wallabies, so it's like not 100%, but it's fairly certain. So we can go through and see that. Yeah, cats are a bit confused. I got a photo of one of my friends and she had a big grin on her face and she had such a massive smile on her face. It was like only 70% certain she wasn't a quokka, which I was really impressed with. So we've gone through and we've worked that out. As I promised, so there is an email address here. You can email hi@quokkas.dev. Once again, you can actually email anything at quokkas.dev and it will work. So you can ask and send in photos of quokkas. I will actually see if I can remember to switch over to the live version before I close my laptop as well, so that it does continue to work. So you can go through and do that. We also have a sweat. This is not a paid product, but there's a website about it because it's not a real side project unless you've built a website about it. So we have some information about Quokka-bot, why I built Quokka-bot, how it works, the technology that I'm using and how it functions, and there's a few blog posts about how it's built. So when I first built it, then adding the image recognition. At some point a couple of years ago, I moved it over to Azure Static Web Apps. So the website and the API are part of one. At some point, I'm going to finish writing the email one as well as the Twilio sync. So we're going through and updating that at some point. At some point in the future, I would also like to add Twitter functionality as well, to add a Twitter bot. I actually started trying to do that last week and then delved into, I couldn't actually find how I got the right credentials from Twitter, and I was just like, no, this is too hard. Future me problem. So we can go through and do that. So I think we have a couple of minutes left if anybody has any questions. No questions? Cool. Well, thank you everybody for coming along to my session. I will be around for the rest of the conference, so if you have any questions about Quokka-bot or anything, happy for you to come up and have a chat to me at some point. I'm also on Twitter at Amy's Capers, so feel free to tweet at me with any Quokka-bot related questions or issues, or even just people just randomly tag me in photos of quokkas now. Actually, when I started hooking this up, one of my friends sent through a Google Photos album with 300 quokka photos. So yeah, always happy to have a chat about something like that. So thank you very much for coming along, and this is probably a chance you can go and get morning tea now, I think, or I'm assuming there might be some form of food. I don't know. If there's food outside, now's your chance to go and get it before everyone else does. So thank you for joining and hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.